Hey everyone, welcome to TFC Daily. This is an initiative by the team at the Financial Coconut to keep your company during this tough time. So follow them on social media, check out all the podcasts for your continued learning enjoyment. Simply head to thefinancialcoconut.com for more details. They have different segments scheduled for you. Every Thursday will be our Finding Our Hedge segment where we focus on shaping your career. Career is a big part of our lives and things are changing fast. So we want to give you the latest happenings, practices, and give you that edge to thrive in the career market. And today I'm your host, Adrian Tan, and I'm very happy to be invited to be the host for this segment to share with you more about this career aspect and, of course, to really get great learnings from our guests today. For those of you who are new to seeing me for the first time, I'm actually been in the HR space for quite some time. I started my career in recruitment before moving into career coaching, outplacement, HR tech, and right now with an educational and certifying body in HR. So I hope all of these learnings could come in useful as I continue to share and preach more about career management. But so much for me today, I would like to start by sharing with you more about our guest, Ivan. An engineer by training, Ivan started his career as a technician and stayed with the same company for 16 years before he left as a senior R&D engineer. After that, he actually joined Ernst Young or EY as a management consultant doing strategy, business process re-engineering, and data analytics for 4 years before taking up his current position as a career coach and senior assistant director with NTU Career and Attachment Office. Having started from scratch and moving up the corporate ladder, Ivan recognizes the importance of taking charge of one's career path and believes that everyone can find a career that's best suited from them. From engineering to consulting and eventually education sector, Ivan is able to position his transferable skills and transit across 3 different industries. Hence, he is a firm believer that if one is able to identify their niche and position well, he or she will be able to add value to the organization and excel in their role. That's quite a mouthful, but thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Adrian.
So you have 3 career pivots, and all of them has been you've done them for quite some time. So how old are you right now? Can you just help us understand? 80 years old?
47 this year.
47. Okay, so you've gone through 3 career pivots. So help us to understand about this. Take us through your journey from the day you started with the first engineering job to going into EY. How does that pivot even happen, and how you eventually ended up in NTU?
Wow. I guess the audience, hopefully they have time to listen to my long story. It's going to go back to almost 20 years ago. In fact, I was a diploma graduate. All right. So immediately after my diploma, I had the opportunity to work with HP as a technician. All right, with my diploma. So I spent a good 8 years as a diploma holder doing engineering work, repairing machine overhauls and stuff like that. And suddenly one fine day, it just struck my mind to say that, hey, because during the time when I was a technician, my work schedule is like 4 days or 3 days a week, and I work 12 hours a day, rotating between day and night in the interval of 2 weeks. So 2 weeks day, 2 weeks night, 2 weeks day, 2 weeks night. And one fine day, because I have too much time, you see. So one fine day I was just lying at home, lying on the sofa, and suddenly I just thinking, am I going to live my life that way? So the thought of just suddenly say, hey, why not I do something differently? What am I going to do with my careers, and is it something that I'm going to do forever? So I just happened to chance upon the NUS part-time degree. So I went to sign up, and then and that's where I took my part-time degree with engineering in manufacturing with NUS for 4 years. So it was a part-time study. Well, I work full-time with HP, and I'm very glad that actually HP sponsored my studies. Right. So of course, at that point in time, there wasn't any so-called bond, but it was a verbal agreement between me and my bosses to say that, hey, hopefully that after you finish your study, you can give HP your first priority as a job. So there I go. With that verbal promise, I actually stayed 16 years with HP. All right. So that after getting my degree, what's next? right? So there was an opportunity for me to move up to a process engineer job, right? But having said that, when I was a technician, because we earn allowance pay, we earn overtime pay, right? So that was quite a handful of amount of money during that time when OT was quite substantial. So as I need to move up to become an engineer, I'm going to change my whole work schedule to become 9 to 5, 5 days a week. So that being said, I'm going to forego a lot of my allowance. I'm going to forego a lot of my OT. All right. And that being calculated is quite a substantial amount. So at that point of time, I was at this career junction where I need to make a decision. Should I take up this 9 to 5 job and become an engineer, or should I continue to continue what I'm doing as a technician? Or I'm taking my OT pay, earning my allowance and stuff like that. So at that point of time, what really makes me think is true is really, if I were to continue doing what I'm doing, maybe my degree will go to waste lah. So why not I just give myself a chance to move up and see what's next for me. So with taking that very painfully, I just go ahead and make a decision to move up to an engineering career. Right. So as an engineer, as a process, I work about 6 years or 8 years before I continue this journey into the R&D space. Okay, to do R&D development for printers. Now, one of the key lessons that I throughout this transition from technicians to engineering, I think something that really at the back of my mind until now I still remember is, don't be too fixated with the short-term goal, short-term tangible things. All right. At that point of time, I do not know why. Somehow I just think a little bit more further to see whether I can give myself an opportunity to move further up. So sometimes I just think through and say that, hey, at that point of time, if I didn't take up the engineering job, what would I be today? Right. So that was something that I until now I still remember lah. All right. So that was a decision that I made, and I didn't regret that until now. Now, as an engineer, being coming from the ground, all right. Something that I always do is I don't like to do presentations. That was not my forte. That was not my forte, seriously. As an engineer, that was not my forte. Okay, I just want to solve the problem on the ground. I don't like to present. I don't like to talk. So whenever my bosses ask me, say, hey, Ivan, so and so is coming down. Can you do a presentation for this and that? The first thing that I tell my boss is, don't want. Can you go ahead and tell me what you want? I just prepare the deck for you and you just present. All right. So even when I have the opportunity to do presentations, I just coming from a very engineering angle, just tell them what I wanted to tell, right? Without understanding who are the target audience. So by and large, that become one of my pitfall. Because one fine day, my boss actually came and tell me and said, coming from the ground, you know your stuff, you know all the technical things. Of course, people respect you as an engineer, because you come from the ground. But what I feel to do is I feel to present my ideas, I feel to showcase my work, and that become my pitfall because nobody knows who is Ivan. Nobody knows what are the things that I'm doing, right? So when it comes to promotion, then I'm actually kind of like self-slapping myself lah. I'm actually jeopardizing my own career path. So that kind of resides into me now, until now, very deeply, and that was also one of the reasons why I left HP for EY when the opportunity comes. Now, how did I actually ended up in EY? It was actually an happenstance. So as a certified career coach, one of our theory that we have learned is about happenstance, meaning to say that things happen for a reason without you planning for it. Right. I was when we go back for reservist, right? When we go back for reservist, I was a logistic officer. And one fine day, one of my DYS3, right, who is an ops officer, he's a manager with EY. At that point of time, I think the EY managed to secure some contracts with MINDEF to do some business process reengineering, some knowledge management kind of project. So they are looking for people who have the skill sets in data analytics, right, and business process reengineering. So being an engineer myself, right, I've been through this whole 16 years of looking at information, looking at data, right, looking at processes, and at the same time, I'm also a black belt Six Sigma, right. So this friend of mine said, hey, bro, why not you come and join me in EY? I look at him and said, what's that? That was my first reaction. That was my very first reaction. I said, what's that? So he explained to me a little bit. So I give you some thoughts, and then I think, and that, remember I said my bosses actually tell me and say, if you don't go out of your own comfort zone to learn how to do presentations, you will forever be what you are now. So with that, I take a very hard stand and say that, okay, let's give myself an opportunity. Since the opportunity comes knocking at my door, why not I just seize it and see what happened next. So that's how I jump into EY to kind of learn everything from scratch again after
So you
spending good 15
practically
years.
jump into the pool of discomfort because as
Yes.
a management consultant, I cannot imagine one day going by without any presentation.
Yes. So I basically learned everything from scratch. Everything from scratch. Yeah, I'm actually forcing myself out of my comfort zone to learn presentations. And I know that is my blind spot. Yeah, so that was quite a steep learning curve for myself. Right. Yeah. So then after that, with the 4 years in EY, I do have the exposure to be a counselor to some of my counselee, and where we, as a counselor, our role is to help our counselee to explore their career path within EY. All right. So what they wanted to do, and we try to kind of get connections with different partners, trying to secure some projects for the counselee, and I kind of enjoy that role very much for whatever reason, right? So and that's how I kind of thought that, hey, maybe I should go into this space of people's development rather than to do pure consulting work. And one fine day, again, happenstance, LinkedIn pop up about this career coaching opportunity with NTU. Without knowing what is it all about, I just clicked apply, and that was how they called me for an interview, and I got accepted lah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay,
So,
so yeah.
to summarize, your all your pivots, you can put it into one word lah, heng lah. You
Yeah,
know,
correct.
to
Somehow,
really
yes,
get
yes.
to know your army mate and of course move here and there. But having said that, not discounting any of your personal efforts, I think it
Mhm.
takes a lot of guts to really jump into the pool of discomfort. I
Mhm.
mean, just for myself, hosting this live stream honestly is quite discomforting for me because I just did my podcast for some time, and when I first started, listening to my own voice was also equally uncomfortable. So I know how
Yeah.
painful all this is. And I was just about to tell you, given that how hard you find presentation to be, we are so honored and appreciative that you're here today to present to us your side of the story. And
It's
and
okay.
and
I think I'll
I
get
think
used
the
to it.
presentation part really made a lot of sense. I remember when I was in recruitment, and I do remember this guy. He was a FC, and he was with National Art Gallery, if I don't remember wrongly. And he was a contract staff, but for the longest time, his boss wanted to push him up. But similar to yourself a few years ago, he was very resistant to presentation. He's like, no, I don't want to talk. I don't want to stand in front of board directors and talk. So, okay, first year go by, okay, never mind. Second year, the boss asked him again, hey, how can you present? No. Third year, the boss go to him, sorry, we found your replacement. We are not going to renew your contract. Then that
Oh
was
God.
when I got to know him. And then he was like, actually, if ask me to present now, I okay one. A bit too late, right? A bit too late to U-turn already. So
Yeah.
I think I'm also seeing a lot of roles evolving where, of course, maybe 10, 20 years ago, the FC, the CFO can just be behind the office, corner office, behind the door, just count beans and all that. But in today's context, you need to present, you need salesmanship, you need showmanship, all this will come into play. And
Mm.
the next thing that I'd like to understand from you, given that you have gone through these three different career directions, what are some key career takeaways you actually gotten from each and every one of them?
I think the first one is basically when opportunity comes, take it or leave it. Yeah, but that being said, we need to have a backup plan. So when that point of time when I decided to leave HP, in fact I have very very good bosses in HP. They are the one that groom me. They are the one that um, um, make me understand my blind spot. And of course, that being said, the career is owned by each individual. All right, we have to take charge of our own career, and whether we take the leap of faith to decide whether what we want to do next is something very individual. So when things happen, I think we don't turn back and regret lah. Right. So at that point of time, I was very fortunate to say, my bosses say that, okay, I know that I can't keep you. All right. You probably need to will go out and 闯一下 lah. In Chinese, they say go out and 闯一下 to really have a chance to see the outside world. And if really you can't really make it out, we welcome you back. So I'm very fortunate to have that opportunity, and of course, maybe that also kind of like give me the assurance that why not I just give it a shot outside and see what happened next. right? So I think that important lesson also make me feel like think that through. Don't ever burn your bridge. Okay, don't ever burn your bridge because you never know who will need your help and who you will need help with. Okay, so that's lesson number one. Lesson number two is basically for be bold lah, be bold and be daring. All right, be bold and be daring. We always reflect upon people. There are a lot of people who always in your career will tell you certain things, highlight your blind spots and stuff like that. But how does each individual take all this negative feedback? Right? You can either brush it aside, or you can complain, and say, why this guy always say bad things about me? Or you can do a reflection and say, why is this people always? Why are people always telling me the same thing? Is it really my problem? And what should I do about it? Right. So with that, I think that is something very important to me, right? As an individual, as I reflect upon my career journey, as and when I always take people's feedback very positively and try to improve on that because and that will become my next pivoting point, which is going to be what I'm going to call a transferable skills. All right. So presentation is definitely a transferable skills. It can be used anywhere, regardless of what role you are in. But I think at that point of time when I was a young punk, I don't think I really see that happening. I'm pretty fixated and say that I'm an engineer. I just want to do the engineering path. I don't care. Right. I want to if I'm unhappy, I'd rather whack the machine than to gonna whack by people lah. Because as a yeah. So that was my very very fixated mindset. How I wanted to pivot my career, but along the way, things happened. And I was given in fact, a few other people actually was asking me, hey, why don't you take up a manager role? Since have already been in this company for so long, you know everything inside out. But at that point of time, it just didn't occur to me, why should I be a manager? I cannot find the purpose. I cannot find the passion. I was thinking, wow, become a manager, I got to see people's face, 看人家的脸色, So that doesn't really reside into me that I'm a people's manager. Until one fine day when I said, okay, maybe I just give it a shot and went for an interview. So happened that the interviewer was also my ex-manager. He was also a very, very good engineer. People respected him. So after the interview, I have the opportunity to ask him one question. So I asked him, so and so, you are also a very respectable engineer. Why do you want to be a manager? So his answer to me was, well, as an individual contributor, this is my scope. This is what I can do. But as a people's manager, I can impact and influence the way people work. I can make their life better. Whoa, I think booms. That was really my second impact. Until now, I still remember. So, and then that was how I come into this career coaching space. Yeah, with that. So, yes, I think we develop our passions and we kind of hit advices along the way. And sometimes we just have to think back and see what are the things that comes along the way and that we miss out.
So essentially looking out for, of course, all these opportunities and, of course, I guess to also let go of some preconceived notions that you have been holding on and clinging on for the longest time, which of course lead me to another question. Given the lengthy period of your employment over this past few decades, more than 2 decades, are there any things that you have unlearned along the way? Of course, you had one from, instead of talking to machines, talk to people, that kind of stuff. Anything else that you have unlearned along the way, which you would perceive as, helping you sharpen your tool or make you a better person?
I think for me, unlearning how to unblock my own mindset is definitely one of the key things. All right. I mean, like I mentioned just now, people always ask me, should I be a manager? And I always brush that aside because at that point of time, my mindset was, I'm an engineer. I want to continue doing my engineering work. I am not able to let go of my comfort zone. All right. I don't see myself being a manager. I don't see myself managing people. And that was because I didn't talk to people enough to understand what are the passion and why people want to be a manager. Okay, because I was quite enclosed within my own confined boundary. So something that I really unlearned is when someone tell you certain thing, right? You may need to verify with a few more people why certain things are happening, right? And talk to more people to really understand their motivation behind and make a judgment call for ourselves. So until now, I think I'm still holding that belief pretty strongly. Hoping that whenever things comes along the way, when things happen, and definitely things happen for a reason, and whether we take it positively or we take it negatively is up to individual. Yeah.
Okay, that's really interesting. And of course, with all this newly gained experience and the things and the knowledge that you picked up along the way, and of course with benefit of hindsight, lah, if you have to look back right now, are there any pivotal moments that you look back and maybe at this moment will still be like, perhaps I should have done this, or maybe I should have done that instead. So are there any regrets on the move or the steps that you have taken?
Actually, I don't really call that a regret, but rather I think the point about if I have talked to more people or probably talk to the manager that who is a good engineer and end up become a manager and understand his motivation behind, all right? Or maybe I should ask more people why do they think I'm a suitable manager? Then that could have strike some thinking for me, all right, for myself and say, hey, maybe I should explore that route. Okay, if I could have done that earlier, it may have changed my whole career path totally, right? I mean, that being said, each and individual of us have a certain mindset at the point of time, lah. I don't think, for me, I don't think there's any wrong or right decision. I can only say that that was the most appropriate decision at that point of time, lah. Until now, when I have a chance to look back, sometimes I also ask myself, if I have agreed to be a manager at that point of time, probably I'm still in the same company, right? Probably we're doing a different role or maybe move up the corporate ladder. But if let's say I didn't take it up and I didn't join EY, what would I be doing now? Would I be have the opportunity to come into NTU as a career coach? What would that be? So that is something that I've always looking back and doing some reflections. I don't really call that a regret.
So if you were to start all over again, and this is really giving premise for people out there who are also contemplating career transition, how would you approach it differently? You did mention earlier on, of course, perhaps getting more insights from the manager to understand more about people management. Any other aspect that you believe might be a bit different if you were to, suddenly become 20-year-old today?
I think during that time, 20 years ago, there wasn't any thing such as mentor or career coach. I don't think so, right? So we were really, I mean, for me, my parents are not educated. They couldn't advise me what I'm supposed to do. I have my circle of friends are pretty limited. Networking wasn't that popular then, right? So we also do not know who to reach out to, right? But having said that, if today I have a chance to turn back the clock, I definitely would want to expand my network of friends, circle of friends, know more people, understand what they do, all right? And with that, try to think back and relate and find my own passions as early as possible, all right? I still remember very clearly back in O-level days, all right? I actually wanted to be a marine biologist, okay? I'm one of those very weird person which my wife described me lah. I mean, other people like dogs, like cats, like rabbits. I don't like that. I like sharks. I like crocodiles. I like snakes. I like reptiles. So that was me. So I wanted to study all this, and then I wanted to be a marine biologist. But I don't think at that point of time there's any of such job positions except for working in the zoo lah. Right. So I mean, in terms of job opportunities, I don't think there's a lot. And I'm very embarrassed to say I didn't get very good grades for my O level, right? So I didn't really have a lot of opportunities in terms of selecting which poly I wanted to go to. So I just take engineering for at that point of time lah. But again, as I took out engineering, I said, okay, since I already in taking engineering diploma, why not I just make full use of it lah, right? And then see what can I do with that. And then at the same time, I still read up on my own free time about sharks, about snakes, about reptiles. So hopefully that, I mean, if I have a chance, I wanted my interest to be my career. But if I cannot, then it doesn't stop me from doing things differently, right? I can still continue to read up on all those things and have a different career path.
And also for people who are out there looking at potential career transition, I'm very certain there will be things that they would have to consider before
Mhm.
just, okay, screw it, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to change my job, I'm going to sack my boss. From your viewpoint, are there things that they need to get sorted out before
Mhm.
they even consider any form of career pivot and transition?
Okay, I think this is a very good question, and I get quite a fair bit of these questions from some of my coaches as well. I think two things that we need to really understand. Number one, when we talk about pivoting a career or even doing a career switch, be it within the same industry or outside the industry, we are always in career coaching. We always talk about these four things: what we call the career values, career interests, your personality, and your skill sets. There's a reason why this VIPS is in that order lah. I mean, that's my own point of view because our values are being brought up since young, right?
Hmm.
Our values are being brought up since young. The environment that we are being brought up with, or our parents or whatsoever, did have some impact on our career values. Say, for example, if today someone who is in the family who all are businessmen, they have a value of earning money. Being a businessman is very very strong compared to someone who is not coming from a business family. They may not think about having a business, right? If you are in a family, everybody is doing a lot of social work. Somehow or rather, the kid will be affected or being influenced to say, "Oh, my values is really to do good, to help the mankind and stuff like that." So our values are being shaped as we grow along the way. And first and foremost, for every individual of us who really wanted to do a career switch, we must ask ourselves, what is the value, what is the passion, and what is the purpose of
Hmm.
us doing a pivoting? I think that is important, right? After you know your values, the next thing you wanted to explore is really what is your interest? What are the areas that you are interested in? Right. Then from there, we talk about whether are you suitable in terms of personality, and of course, why skills are the last is because skills can be acquired.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
skills can be acquired easily or easier acquired compared to changing your values. Like for myself, right? I would say for me, I don't smoke, I don't drink, right, and I don't take drugs. So if today my value is very firm, I will never touch drugs, no matter what. Okay, I can be a narcotic officer. Okay, I can be a because I don't like people to go into drugs, right? So that is my value. But if today you ask me to be a drug trafficker and stuff like that, no way, right? No way. So those are the values that is very strong into me because that was how my parents tell me and said, never touch such things, and it has been with me since very very young, right? So for every other people, think through about your background, think through about your upbringing, what is your value, what is your purpose, and what is your
Hmm.
passion before you think through how do you want to pivot for your next career path, right? But that being said, sometimes we also have to balance between the reality versus our dreams lah. All right,
Hmm.
we can dream all we want, but at that point of time, say for example, now under this pandemic, right, a lot of people very sadly they got retrenched, they lost their job. What is the first thing that they need to do? Is to find a job and put food on the table for the family. Okay, so they can dream to become anything, but if that is not going to happen, like I said, skill sets doesn't build over 1 day or 2 days. It takes some time for you to build up certain skill sets. All right,
Hmm.
then you have to find the next possible path. What can you do to earn some money at the same time sharpen your skill sets so that you can be better positions for your next career journey? Right. So balancing between reality versus your dream is something that I think people have to consider as well.
So also have to be
Mm.
realistic now. Look at the external
Yeah, correct.
environment, and given that we're right now in a pandemic, of course, even if you dream to become the next actor at MediaCorp, maybe you want to consider after pandemic lah. You know,
Yes,
to
correct.
do something else, and that I think, and also above that, I think you also have to look into some of the stuff that may have a material impact. Like perhaps
Mhm.
if you want to go into something which really takes a lot of time away from your family, would your family be okay? Would your wife be okay? Would your spouse be okay? Would your kids be okay? So all this, I think, also have to come into play as well. But on another note, of course, career transition is also like dating lah. You want the person, but the person don't want you. So
Mhm.
how do you navigate that and really put yourself out there, given the fact that not everyone may be that fortunate like you to, have an army mate that help you pave the way into one of the big four. So for many people out there, I would imagine they need to somehow showcase their talent, like American Got Idol, like that, to
Mhm.
really share with people, hey, this is not just what I can do. I can also do this. I can also do that. So how would you advise people who is prepared, who has sorted out all their personal issue, financial issue? Okay, I'm ready to do career transition, but I do not know how to stand out from the noise. How would you advise them on standing out from everyone else out there who is maybe competing for the same kind of position?
Hmm. Okay. There was one webinar that I attended, and I was told that for every single role that was being put out on the internet, there are over 1,000, 2,000, or even 5,000 applicants for each and every individual role. Now, your resume, when you throw into the job portal, is just going to be a needle in the big sea. All right. How and more so importantly now, with all the ATS, we call the applicant tracking system, right, where your resume are being vetted by a machine rather than a human being. All right. So there are keywords. Number one, there are keywords that you should be mindful what to put into the resume that meets the needs of the job role. Right. So a lot of us, number one, fall into the trap where we think that, I have 20 years of experience. When I apply for these specific positions, I just throw in anything and everything about my skill sets and experience. But but again, when that resume being vetted by the machine, and some of these keywords doesn't get picked up by the machine, it's just not going to go through to the second round into the recruiters, right? That's number one. Number two, if you do not know what to put inside and you just anyhow write your skill sets, you also doesn't meet what the job role needed, right? So that again also doesn't go through the second round. Now, what is important, like I mentioned just now, once you have sorted out your VIPS, you will know better, and with a better understanding of the job functions, you can literally talk to people, right? Talk to your friends, relative, or people from LinkedIn. And I think LinkedIn is a wonderful platform, right? People in LinkedIn are so friendly that you can reach out to any one of them to ask for advice, ask them what do they do and stuff like that. People will just respond to you very friendly, right? So with all this understanding and you have a better understanding about the job function, you will be in a better position to craft your resume so that it stands out into the to the recruiters and to the machine. That's just one approach from the resume perspective. Now, the second way is to do pro bono, right? Now, I think networking is a very important and very key aspect in a career journey, in a way, in what we call a job hunt strategy, right? It's not about who you know; it's about who knows you. All right. You can be doing a lot of things, but if nobody knows you, then it's as good as not doing anything, right? So sometimes what we actually wanted to do is LinkedIn is a very good platform to sell yourself. All right. If let's say you have been doing some pro bono work, all right, trying to build certain skill sets, you can actually plug it into LinkedIn, all right, and then people can start to see, or so this individual has, although even though he has lost his job, say for example, an individual who lost his job, but instead of sitting around at home and staring at the four walls, not doing anything, can you take up some courses? Can you go and do some pro bono work, right? Community work to level up your skill sets, level up your experience, right? I give you an example. Say for example now, when pandemic hits, right, a lot of things, even now, let's say we're talking about the heightened alert, right? There's no dining in. A lot of people are going into grab food, okay, food delivery and stuff like that. If you were to now start this, so don't look down on these grab delivery people, because there's a lot of thinking behind. Why I say so is because it's not logical for someone to deliver food from the east to the west. Right, it's not logical, right? There are a lot of planning behind the scene to say, okay, when you order food from this particular store, what is my boundary? Where should I go? What is my circle of circumference where the delivery guy can reach the client, can reach the customer in the shortest time, keeping the food warm? So there's a lot of thinking behind. So if you are able to do all this kind of planning, coordination, that will help you in terms of leveling up your skill sets in a certain area. And that's how you can position yourself for the next career path if that particular role requires you to have a lot of coordination, requires you to do a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, critical thinking and stuff like that. So those are the channels that you can explore, one can explore to level up and make yourself be more visible, all right, in the space, rather than just applying for through job portals.
So the pro bono job thing is definitely interesting, which I want to touch on. But before that, maybe I also like to take the opportunity to share with our audience out there something that one of my friends did. And of course, he already has a skill set, so it's more about just standing out. So he actually rounded up a group of us on LinkedIn. And by the way, yes, LinkedIn has very good traffic. So next episode onwards, we will also stream it on LinkedIn and reach out to a wider audience. So going back to the story, so what my friend did was he rounded up a group of us on LinkedIn, created a group, and was telling us, "Hey, I saw this job posted by Lego. Lego was looking for a head of global talent acquisition. He's also in talent acquisition, and he's trying to get into the job." So typically what you will do is, okay, I click into the job, I go and apply and I wait, I pray something will happen. But interestingly, he did something very different. So when he rounded up all of us, he shared with us the link and he tell all of us, can you do me a favor? Can you go to this post where someone from Lego shared about this post? And because the post is about, I'm looking for this head of global talent acquisition. Do you have any recommendation? Please let me know. Please get an reply. So each and every one of us go into the post and comment, you should speak with Michael. And then tag Michael. Because Michael has done this. And then suddenly, another post. You should speak with Michael. So can you imagine within that post, there is like 8 to 10 different mentions all about Michael. So naturally, if you're the poster, you're like, wow, who the hell is Michael? I must go and take a look. And Michael can be like, yeah. He doesn't have to be an active candidate and be like, I'm so desperate for your job. He can, put himself on a pedestal and have a different kind of conversation. So I thought that's something quite interesting that people can consider. But having said that, of course, that is provided you already have the skill set to haolian. So for people who don't have the skill set to show off, then of course that is where they want to look at to gaining experience in other way, and as you have shared, pro bono work. But for people out there who may not know, how do you find pro bono work to begin with? Because even if you go to any job portal out there, those are typically jobs that pay you something. Even internship, you get paid. Pro bono work, in my dictionary, will be free labor. But where do you even go and find this free labor to begin with?
I think community center is definitely one channel. Okay. I do know that in quite a fair bit of community work, even NGOs, okay, non-profit organizations, they do encourage quite a fair bit of people trying to help out. All right. And the thing, during this pandemic, we see a lot of news, people trying to help each other, delivering food and stuff like that. So all those, I think when you use our Mr. Good friend, Mr. Google, okay, just to Google what are the opportunity for pro bono work or volunteering work, definitely you can find tons and tons of all this work coming on board. It's just a matter of which one do you want to go for. All right. So, and because at this point of time, everyone should help to look out for each other. I think more help is definitely more than welcome. So those are the things that we can build certain skill sets, and then not only about building skill sets through all this volunteering work. It's also actually another channel for you to network. Right, another channel for you to network. Right. So I mean, I've seen news. Some of those even businessmen, they have the heart. They find that they kind of like felt very sorry for people who lost their job. They even fought out their own money to buy food, and then get their friends, get people recruiting volunteers to help distributing food. So as you take part in all this volunteering work, you also get to network with people around who are the people who have the heart to serve people. And there, with that opportunity, for all you know, you may even get a job opportunity from there, you see, right? So those are the avenues that you can actually explore. Now, Adrian, just now you touched on the point about Michael. It kind of struck me this story. I was hosting a alumni event, right? Alumni event in NTU, and one of our alumni, and exactly I asked her this question. I said, "How do you land yourself into this job role?" Right. So this particular alumni was from a humanity discipline, and she got a business analysis role with a certain company. So it was totally different, very, very different. So I asked this question: how did you get yourself into this company? Everybody was trying to go inside. So she said, actually, I just dropped my feedback because she got a very bad experience with this company. All right. So what she does was she actually wrote into the company and said, I wanted to kind of like complain about your service and blah 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 blah. But instead of just pure complaining, she suggests to them what can be done to improve. Wow, I think that was the turning point when whoever that received the email, the moment they said, interestingly, usually they keep on receiving complaints, right? Feedback lah, negative feedback lah, blah blah blah. But this person, other than telling them about the negative thing, come up with her own way of and suggesting ways to improve. That kind of caught the attention of the recruiters and said that, hey, I think let me just call this person up for a chat. And that was how she got her job. So that could be one method for all the job seekers out there to really think through. Sometimes don't just feedback, don't just give negative feedback. Provide some of your opinions as well. I mean, like what I've been said, opinion is your own individual opinion. But of course, do it professionally. All right. So I think that could be another channel for you to reach out to. That was pretty interesting at that point of time.
So for the viewers out there, from today onwards, you may want to spot things that you can complain about lah. But of course, don't complain. Like Ivan mentioned, try to make it constructive, try to make it positive, and maybe good things will come your way. And I just want to touch on and expound on the pro bono part, and it's really something worth exploring for many people, especially for myself, as I was in the outplacement industry before. And I do remember this guy, he was a geothermal engineer trying to get into data analytics. And this was a few years ago when data analytics was just beginning to be hot. But I think many people tend to take that laid back approach. Oh, I just need to go for this PCP or go for this diploma, and suddenly jobs will come to me. So that's the key approach many people take. But for this particular guy, he went above and beyond. He actually took up a free internship with HP, your first employer, for 6 months. And towards the end of 6 months, that was when he came into our system, and then we were talking to him. In fact, I spoke with him and I was telling him, hey, why don't you consider extending another 6 months, make it 1 year, it looks nicer. And he was telling me, cannot lah. 6 months, I already dig into my own savings, cannot tahan another 6 months. But but just that 6 months of hands-on experience really put him on a different level compared to everyone else who just merely graduated from class. So when we managed to identify this data analyst trainee job, we recommended him, we recommended a few more people who merely just graduated, and all of them were put through this assessment test. And everyone except him failed because he has done hands-on. So for him, it is, I wouldn't say a piece of cake lah, but he knows what's going on. Whereas for the rest, only know theory, do not know practice. So all fail. So end up, he was the only person that got hired, and he was very glad for that. So for people out there, again, who is looking into career transition, it is true that it's not going to be as easy as what you have seen in the case study of Ivan here. It might be a lot more challenging for yourself. But having said that, there are ways to take baby steps to move closer and closer to your goal. While of course you try to network and get to know more people out there. And on the knowing more people out there aspect, did you take a very proactive approach to go and do random networking to just know people from a just in case kind of angle, or is it something that comes along the way as you start to explore other new opportunities?
I think so. I think that being said about networking, right? Even though I mentioned LinkedIn is a very good platform where everybody is friendly to network, but I just want to have a caution for people outside. Do network sincerely. All right, network sincerely. Don't go with a intention to say, reach out to someone, hey, so and so, do you have a job for me? That is not going to happen. All right. So I did remember someone mentioned to me and said, if you ask for advice, you may get a job. But if you ask for a job, you will never get it because nobody knows you, right? But if you sincerely want to network, get advice from people, be concerned, be sincere. I think along the way, when people know you more, as opportunity comes along, they will remember you. Okay, so I think to do a networking, you definitely have to take a very proactive approach. Like I mentioned, if you are just putting yourself, your profile in LinkedIn, without any, you just try that. You just try. If today you don't post anything, I can tell you, nobody will ever want to be connected with you. But as you start posting things regularly, and then people start seeing that, hey, this guy quite interesting. When he posts something, he reads an article, he internalize it and he articulate it and he give his own opinion. Of course, opinion being opinion, nobody can fault you, right? Because that's your own opinion. But of course, do it very professionally. When someone, as you do that more frequent, you will start to gain more tractions and people will start to notice you. And when you wanted to reach out to people, all right, the first thing when you reach out to people to do a connection, what will people do? Other people will straight away go into a LinkedIn and start to see what are the things that you have posted, what are the activities you have done, and blah blah blah. So if you start posting a lot of negative things, do you think people want to network with you? For sure, no, right? Right. So if you post a lot of very positive things, putting your own point of view and stuff like that, people say that, hey, this guy is interesting. Maybe I should just make friends with him, network with him. Maybe we can have a common things, something in mind that we can talk about. So take the more proactive approach when it comes to network and be sincere. I think that is very, very important.
And Ivan, you mentioned earlier on about asking for advice, you get job. Asking for a job, you get advice. I think that one actually came from me, like, if I'm not wrong.
I think so. Yes, yes, yeah.
I
Because
think I
you
shared it in one of the webinar that you guys
yes,
hosted. So just for people out there who's interested, I actually got this from. It's actually quite a common saying in the startup world. But for them, it's more of, if you ask for money, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get money. So I actually repurpose it from a career angle. But it is really true. In many cases, when people tend to connect with strangers on LinkedIn, the first thing that they ask is, got job or not? I personally get like 3-4 of them per week, and usually I would just ignore because there's nothing in it for me. So, but if you were to turn it around and ask for advice, I'm just approach them and say, hey, I know I saw your background, angkat down a little bit lah. I'm so impressed by your career trajectory and all that. Can I buy you coffee? Well, pre-COVID, can I buy you coffee? Have a chat with you to get some career advice. Most people, with their ego already inflated, they'll be more than happy to sit down with you and give you solid advice. And I have people, when I was still doing career coaching, I think the conversion rate is at least 60%. And out of that 60%, at least half will say okay to a coffee. The other half will at least entertain a phone call. And also a pro tip that I like to share with people, because if you are new to the LinkedIn game, it is not just opening up an account and then start to post things. You also need to have connections, because LinkedIn is a social network. It is not a directory. You go in, everyone is already there. It's not a membership community platform. So you actually need to build up that network. But of course, if you're new to a LinkedIn game, assuming you don't have an account, you start today, it's going to take time lah. And I think the magic number everyone try to hit is at least about 500 connection. So a pro tip from me here is there are actually ways for you to automate that. So there are tools out there like Lead Connect. I use that. There's also Phantom Buster, etc. You can try to find out more. They do have a free version, and they will actually automate the connection part. But of course, connect intelligently lah. You don't randomly connect everyone from A to Z. You want to be a little bit more deliberate. So assuming your angle, let's say you want to be you're a HR fresh grad, or maybe you are in HR, you want to pivot to become an engineer, whatever it might be, you look for someone who has been there, done that, or someone who has been there, done that, or rather someone who is managing this been there, done that person. So just approach them, connect with them, and then that is where, of course, you should put in the right angle to ask for advice, to solicit for advice. But still, before that, you need to build up that network. So try to explore all these tools. It'll be really interesting for you to automate that aspect of things. And on another note, when it comes to career transition, I'm very certain when you go into any new careers, there will definitely be certain things that you might want to look at differently, be mindful of. Are there any things that for anyone that's moving into a entirely new role, over and above the things like, of course, keep an open mind, or that things that they should look out for, things that they really should pay attention to, so that they really give themselves the opportunity to test something out? Because most of the time, especially when you're going from something of 16 years to a new thing, it is actually very easy for you to put your foot in the door and then say, wrong move. Buyer's regret. So what can people do to ensure that they give themselves sufficient time to test out this new gig before they decide, okay, maybe this is truly not for me?
Okay, so I think number one, have a backup plan first, in case all things fail, and be prepared to fail. Be prepared to fail. Be prepared to take negative feedback. I think that is one very important mindset that we need to shift as we change our career path. Because like myself, I'm totally going into a different field from engineering to consulting, from consulting to coaching. All right, I tell myself, whatever negative feedback that I'm going to get, take it first. Okay, take it, internalize it, and then think through how can I improve it. All right, give myself a time frame, say 2 years. Okay, and see, and then do a reflection to see whether am I suitable or am I not suitable. Okay, that's one of the key things. But of course, that being said, do understand from people who are in that field what are the key skill sets or key things that one needs to excel in that particular job role. And with that being said, right, very interestingly, in career coaching, we have this term called a motivator skills and a burnout skills. All right. Now, motivator skills are skill sets that you are good at and you enjoy using it. Burnout skills are skill sets that you are good at, but you don't enjoy using it. All right. So if let's say I mean, most of us doesn't even know this term, doesn't even know what are your motivator skills, what are your burnout skills, unless you went through a proper career coaching or you went through something with a career coach. All right. So if one knows his or her burnout skills, and you know that this particular role actually tap on a lot of your burnout skill, I think that one better don't go in because you are, even though you can do it well, right? You are not going to sustain well or you sustain long, because human being, very interestingly, when a person is given a certain project or a certain task, we will do our best to make it work. Okay, we will do our best to make it work. We will do our very best because we never let ourselves fail. Right. So that being said, as you produce result, all right, you are actually going outside of your comfort zone, forcing yourself into a different mode to do the work, to produce good results. That is you. But again, from the other perspective, other people see that and say, oh, actually this person do this job very well, means he likes to do it. So I give you more. Lah. And being Asian, very difficult for us to say no, right?
Yep.
So we suck thumb, keep on doing. So as you do once, do twice, do 3 times, do 4 times, the more you do, the more you get frustrated. Right. And one fine day you will just break away and say, no, that's it for me. I'm not going to continue doing that. All right. So be mindful about this thing called burnout skills. So you understand from the individual who is in that position, what does it take to do the job role well? Okay. And then position it yourself and see, is that something that you really like to use? Is that a skill set that you really like to use? If the answer is no, then don't go into it.
Okay, so in terms of, so really have to assess the skill sets, whether they are applicable within the environment. But of course, I guess also giving yourself time to test things out, to understand whether this might be suitable or not. And okay, so all this will be really interesting. So as we are coming to the end of our 1 hour mark, perhaps I can also find out from you if you have any parting shots or any things that you would like to share with the audience who are, of course, actively considering or looking into or sitting on the fence about a career transition. Do you have any parting words for them?
I think first and foremost, understand your priority and your needs first. Okay, what is your current priority and what is your current needs? Only with that being very clear, then you will know whether are you going to take a step out of your current zone. All right. So I think that is the very most important. Number two, think through for those people who wanted to do a career switch. All right. After you have sorted out your priority and your needs and you know what you wanted to go to, think through over the years, what are the transferable skills that you have built along the way over your careers that you can pivot, that you can use to position yourself for the next career milestone. I think that is important because a lot of us usually don't think through, don't really think about that. I mean, that being said, say for example, communication skills, right? we just say communication skills, but nobody actually thinks through and say, actually communication skills is a very transferable skills. Doesn't matter what industry you go, doesn't matter what role you take, you still need communication skills. If you fail to communicate, people don't even understand you. Then literally you are just by yourself. So those are the two things that I think I would want to tell the audience.
Okay, and also perhaps to give our audience some form of blueprint, or at least some guiding directions, especially in the current market situation where hiring is, quite it's relatively halted. What would you see as the a step-by-step guide to work towards this career that you're interested in, as again, especially considering the current situation we're in right now?
I think for all of us who is currently in these situations, right? Everybody was saying that during these difficult times, if you have a job, just hang on to it, lah. Okay, just hang on to it. From a reality angle, yes, I agree. All right, because end of the day, you still need to put food on the table for your family. All right, every one of us has a certain threshold. Okay, you know yourself better whether how long can you hold on to it. Now, that being said, at the same time, while you're holding on to what you are doing now, nothing is stopping you from building a different skill sets through different channels. I think we touched on the point about pro bono. All right, using some of your free times, are you able to do things differently? Are you able to explore different opportunity, and then at the same time build up your portfolio, so that when the time comes, you can use that to pivot for your next career milestone. So that is probably what I think is doable now, right? I mean, for those people who unfortunately already lost their job, right? I think there are various channels outside, like E2I, WSG, or even private practitioners coaching that you can reach out to. Hopefully, you can get someone, or maybe some of your friends who are coaches or stuff like that. There's some advice. Look around. Your friends, see whether are there any opportunities for them to be connected with. I think this is some of those resources that you can tap on in that sense.
And of course, people can also connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yes,
not
definitely,
to ask for a job, but maybe to buy you coffee, send coffee to your house, and
no
get some
problem.
career advice from you, lah. So please let us know what is your favorite coffee, Teh or whatever, so that our audience will know what to buy. And all in, thank you so much today, Ivan, for making this possible and sharing your precious insights with us in helping people who are quite confused about career transition, on your own experience, the pitfalls, the wins, and also importantly, how they can apply in their own context. So once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for all the audience out there, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for spending time with us. And stay tuned tomorrow for more content. And if you want to hang out with us, join our Telegram group and also become a member so that you can receive early releases, premium investment content, closed-door discussion, and a community to learn together with others. So sign up to become members today. Just head over to thefinancialcoconut.com for more details. And for me, I will be more than happy to see you next Thursday on Finding Your Hedge. And we have another exciting guest that will be sharing with you more about becoming a most valuable professional. So until then, see you everyone. Take care and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.